Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Yesterday was a special day for us Snyderverse fans for many reasons. Zack Snyder posted a poster celebrating 214 and has hinted yet again that he hasn't moved on. We also have a clip from David Ayer's Suicide Squad that was released that shows how different his cut is to the theatrical cut. And an entire fight sequence from Ben Affleck's cancelled Batman film has been released in the form of animated storyboards. So let's get through all the Snyderverse news. So we start with Zack Snyder, who posted this on his Vero account. Now, the poster is from Zack Snyder's Justice League, but he has added some more text to it. The most obvious being the happy 214 in the middle. Now, in America, they do their dates differently to how we do it in the UK. So 214 refers to the second month and the 14th day. Why is 214 special? Because that was the original runtime for the Snyder Cut, 214 minutes, which is around 3.5 hours. That was the cut that he had been working on in 2017 before he left the project. Then HBO Max allowed him to add in any more scenes he wanted, which increased the runtime to 4 hours. Now the quote at the top of the poster says, "I must ride with my knights, to defend what was, and the dream of what could be." Now this quote is from Excalibur, which is Snyder's favourite film. Us Release the Snyder Cut fans who have been following his Vero updates since the beginning know that he always has a second meaning to his posts. So, in usual Snyderverse fashion, let's take a deeper dive into what this quote means. Well, the knights could refer to us, the Snyderverse fans. To defend what was, could be defending his 3 DC films, maybe defending it from the rumours of The Flash erasing his films. We know that if The Flash erases Snyder's DC films, not only will that absolutely suck in the sense of damaging the DCEU, but we have also made it very clear that the Snyderverse is untouchable by any DC film. It's in its own universe. Snyder has stated that, and we know that his version of Justice League is not canon to the new DCEU, which is actually an advantage as it means we don't have any strings attached. There's no characters he needs to force in from the DCEU. Now the final line I find is the most intriguing and exciting, and the dream of what could be. This is obviously the dream of the Snyderverse being restored, which is what we all want, and clearly Snyder does too. I know to people who aren't really in the loop with Snyder's posts or have no connection or experience with how Snyder operates on Vero, this could look like utter nonsense from me, and I'm just making this up as I go along. But us Release the Snyder Cut fans who have been here from the start, we know that this has a double meaning. Surely if Snyder was just celebrating Happy 214, then he would just put the Happy 214 text on there and post it if it didn't mean anything. The fact that he also added that quote is extremely important, and I think it may also mean that we need to be united. There seems to be so many different factions of the Restore the Snyderverse community. With the Snyder Cut, we were all on the same page mostly. We wanted the Snyder Cut, so we pushed for it, collectively and positively. With the Snyderverse, it seems people have been putting their own personal wants in front of what the actual Restore the Snyderverse message is. This isn't to erase the new DC films. We never pushed for the Snyder Cut with that mindset. We knew when asking for the Snyder Cut to be released that it would most likely not be canon, and Snyder even stated that the DCEU has moved away from his vision. So why does some seem so adamant about erasing the new DCEU movies and replacing them with the Snyderverse? Trust me, I would much prefer Snyder's take on DC films to be the main storyline and tone for the DCEU. But we have to face reality. It won't. But the Snyder Cut is already disconnected from the main DCEU storyline. Does that damage your viewing experience of the Snyder Cut? Most likely not. So why can't the next 2 Zack Snyder's Justice League films be disconnected from the main DCEU timeline as well? What I'm trying to say is, I think that Snyder is subtly trying to make us decide to be united again. Push for the Snyderverse because we want to see Snyder's story complete, not because some of us have an underlying hatred for the new DCEU films. I'm not saying celebrate and love the new DCEU films, I'm just saying don't push for the Snyderverse because you want to have an excuse to hate on the new DC films. I think it distracts us from what we actually want, and it creates a more of a toxic atmosphere in the fandom. with people talking about what they hate instead of pushing for what they love. Anyway, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, so to bring it back, I think Snyder is trying to give us more hope for the Snyderverse, and we need to replicate that by being hopeful about the Snyderverse. Now, some people on Twitter have suggested that the words and numbers have been placed in a very specific place. Justice League, Snyder, 2. As in Zack Snyder's Justice League 2. Now that was a very good find because I did not notice that. As we do know, Snyder is very specific with the positioning of his posts, so I'm sure he is teasing that, which means he is pushing for Justice League 2 and 3 to be complete. Yet again, Snyder knows more than we do. He's hyping us up for a reason, and he did say that if Discovery ever came knocking, he would accept in a heartbeat. So he must know that there is a possibility that the Snyderverse can be restored. On to the next piece of news, and that is that a fight sequence for the cancelled Ben Affleck Batman film has been released, and I have to say, it looked awesome. The fight is between Batman and Deathstroke, and it was released by a storyboard artist called Monty Granito, who has done storyboards for Marvel films and DC films. This is unfortunately fan-made by them, but as they have worked on DC films, we could have seen something very similar to this in Affleck's Batman film. I'll let you watch it, and then we will move on to the next piece of news. Now the final piece of news is that a clip from David Ayer's cut of the Suicide Squad has been released. Now I'm not going to play it here as I'm sure Warner Brothers would absolutely love to take my channel down for posting that as they haven't officially released the clip, so I will leave a link in the description for you all to watch it. But it clearly shows a difference in the relationship between Harley and the Joker. Fortunately, Movies That Matter has created a post about what's different in the Ayer cut and why it should be released. The post states, tonally different with a completely different first act and a different third act, with score instead of soundtrack throughout the movie. Oscar-nominated actor Will Smith is the lead and he wants to get it released as well. Oscar-winning actor Jared Leto has a full movie worth of deleted Joker scenes. Oscar-nominated actress Margot Robbie is the female lead and wants to see it as well. Successive fan favourites The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker are doing well on HBO Max. David Ayer and even James Gunn showed the support. More of Ben Affleck's Batman before his emotional send-off in the Flash movie, and new DC content on HBO Max at relatively no expense. So it would make complete sense for HBO Max to release the Ayer cut. I only saw Suicide Squad once and that was in the cinema, but David Ayer deserves to have his cut of the film released. Like with the Snyder cut, it doesn't matter how good the film is, it's about allowing the director to have their vision released, not the vision the studio forces them to create. What is the point of hiring a director if the studio is going to micromanage the film? They might as well direct it themselves. So David Ayer deserves to have his true version of the film released, and HBO Max would be the perfect place to release it. It would cost way less than the Snyder cut as it is complete, so all they would have to do is spend money on marketing. Release the Ayer cut managed to get over 70,000 tweets yesterday, and apparently Restore the Snyderverse got around 100,000 tweets. It doesn't sound like much, and it's not compared to the 1.5 million tweets that Restore the Snyderverse got a while back. But that's not how the trending days work. It's not about individually how many tweets each trending day gets, it's collectively how much demand there is. That 1.5 million tweets was staggering, and it was the most tweeted about film on Twitter history, more than Endgame. Discovery will have all this data. What the 100,000 tweets does is that it shows you have a lot of loyal fans who are still pushing for it. The other 1.4 million most likely still want the Snyderverse, otherwise they wouldn't have tweeted it. But this shows the more loyal fans who are constantly pushing for the Snyderverse on every trending event. Hopefully we can get a huge trending day event on March 18th, which would be the 1-year anniversary of the Snyder Cut's release, as special dates tend to get more discussion and trend more. So that is the next big goal, and I'm hoping we can get around 500,000 tweets that day, where we will celebrate the Snyder Cut and push for the Snyderverse. But that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I hope to see you here again soon, so until then, have a great day. Bye!